Hello, welcome to Teachable Tuesday. Today I want to give you some paper tips as it pertains to storing your paper. And when I talk about storing paper, this is for those individuals who actually do printing of notebook journals and planners and cards or any type of stationery, and they keep their paper at home or in their office. So I want to give you some tips in reference to how to store your paper correctly. My name is Katrina Braithwaite. I am the CEO and owner of Crushing Goals and Taking Notes. So let's get started with your paper tips. First tip, your paper should be stored at a temperature of 68 degrees to 75 degrees, and that's Fahrenheit. It should not be stored in direct sunlight because direct sunlight can impact the temperature and change the color of your paper. So keep that in mind. The second tip, keep the paper in the wrapper until it's time to use it. Sometimes we take out, paper, we put it in our printer and then we leave it in our printer. It's best to unused paper to put it back into the wrapper and make sure that that wrapper is sealed. The paper wrapper is a lining inside and it's there to prevent moisture from coming in and out of that packaging. Once the paper is open, the barrier is broken, then the moisture content of the paper will begin to change. So sometime you can actually, if you put a little slit across the top and not just rip the paper open or the packaging open on the paper, you can kind of tape it up to keep that moisture in. Third tip, if you're not going to use the whole rim of paper, tape it up and seal the wrapper. Okay? Fourth, if paper has been left open for a period of time, the used sheets from the center of the package. That means that if you open your paper and you don't tape it back up, use paper from the center of your paper pack and not from the top or from the bottom. 5, paper that loses its moisture starts to shrink. It starts to smudge when you actually put it in the printer. It starts to warp. It gets wavy, and sometimes it causes paper jams in the printer. That's something to consider as well. If you're having paper jams, to actually look and see if your paper is warped or if it's kind of wavy or if it has, because moisture has made it a little bit, wet on it. That is something else that you might want to consider. Tip 6. Before using paper that has been stored or shipped from a different climate, allow the paper to sit in an open space in your home in order that it can afford paper shock. And yes, paper does have shock. So paper shock will also affect your printing. Tip number 7, store your paper on a flat surface. Usually on something that's flat so it won't, because what your paper do is it will condition itself to whatever it is actually sitting on. So if you're sitting on something, let's just say a shelf that has maybe a little wave to it, your paper will eventually adhere to that. So that's another thing that you need to look at and consider. Don't store paper on uneven surfaces like the top of the printer or on anything that is warped. Tip number 8, keep paper from the doors and windows and vents. That's to avoid the paper from getting, different environments from heating or air conditioning, from the sunlight. Sunlight can actually change the paper color. So that's something that you want to consider as well, to keep it away from the heating and air units or vents and away from windows or direct sunlight. This can also cause damage to your paper. The 9th thing, I truly believe in the 3-finger rule. And the 3-finger rule is don't purchase more paper than you can use in 3 months. Because that means that that paper now sits and it gets conditioned to the environment or wherever it is actually being stored. The 10th tip, if you don't have a place to store your paper, purchase shelving or containers in order to protect your paper from the environment. And again, make sure that those containers don't have any, that's not warped, that they are actually smooth on the inside for storage. And so those are the things the tips that I have for you, the 10 tips that I have for you in order to how to store your paper perfectly. I hope that this helps someone. Let me know what you think in the comments. And again, thank you for joining me on Teachable Tuesday.